Welcome to Beyond the Type, the podcast where we explore personality type, communication, and the beautifully messy and sometimes complicated human experience. I'm Sandy Swanson, communication and relationship coach, here to help you better understand yourself and others so you can thrive in all areas of life. Let's get into it. Well, greetings everyone, Sandy here. I'd like to talk to you today about this idea of being stuck. And this is something I experience in my coaching sessions every day. People come in who talk about feeling stuck. Maybe they're stuck in a job they don't like. Maybe they're stuck after graduating college and they're working their dream job. They don't know what's next. Maybe they're stuck not knowing what to do now that the kids have left home, or stuck in a relationship that is no longer serving them. Maybe they're stuck not knowing what to do regarding that big decision looming over them. And more often than not, when clients come to my sessions, they want tips, tricks, or tools to help them get unstuck. Can't tell you how many clients ask for those tips, tools, tricks, strategies. In other words, they want information. And the thing is, there is a shit ton, excuse my French, a shit ton of information out there. I mean, the internet is a beautiful thing. Any answers we desire are at our fingertips. So why are we always so stuck when we have all of this information? And the thing is, information does not help a person get unstuck. It can be a starting point, for sure, but information alone will not get one unstuck. And what does get you unstuck is doing the hard inner work. So I'm talking about understanding your beliefs, your emotions, your body, how you think, act, feel the way you do, why you are doing any of it. So this is your motivation. This is all imperative to getting unstuck. And this is really what coaching is all about, to help you better understand yourself so you can make different choices moving forward. So I'm going to share with you a few things that I discuss with my clients that will help them better understand themselves and how they move through this world. And it's my hope it'll get your juices flowing as to how you move through your world and what to consider if you're feeling stuck. And yes, these might be called tips, tricks, and tools. You caught me, okay. But you can absolutely self-coach yourself using these tricks, these tools. It is, I want to say always, sometimes, well, it's usually, I'm going to go with usually, it's usually easier with a facilitator, for example, a coach or a therapist or a spiritual advisor, a mentor. But if you are willing to go deep on your own and be honest with yourself, that one's a tricky one because we have a lot of blind spots that we don't know about. And it's good to have a third party to sort of shine a light on those blind spots. We might think we're being honest, but maybe there's things we just can't see. So that's where a coach or a therapist or a mentor might come in real handy. But I invite you to play around with these techniques. So the first tip I'm going to give you is the idea of getting in touch with your body. So I invite you to stop for a moment and just check in. Check in with your body. Where are you holding tension right now? So we might be holding tension in our jaw, in our neck, in the gut, or there might be a pain somewhere like a headache, a backache. Maybe there's eye strain. So I invite you to notice this pain or tension and breathe and relax into it. So getting in touch with your body is a brilliant way of not only teaching yourself how to relax, but it also helps you be present. And when we are present, this creates space. And within that space, there is opportunity to see what is needed. So what is that physical symptom, that pain, that ache? What is that telling you that you need? And don't overthink this. Something usually comes up pretty quick, like, I need to rest. I need to let go of XYZ. I need to get outside. I need to exercise. I need a good cry. And that last one happens a lot in my coaching sessions when I allow space for their whole experience, that client's whole experience, something shifts and there is a release. And sometimes it comes out in the form of tears, and that's okay. It's all good. But think about what is needed and how you can meet that need. And once that need is met, some things might clear up. You might not get completely unstuck, but there's usually a shift that takes place or a relaxing that happens. So one thing to note is that getting in touch with the physical body might be really, really hard for some people. And if we're thinking about the Enneagram and the 3 centers of intelligence, this is the body or the gut center of intelligence. And for some types, it's a little bit harder to get in touch with that sensation and that center of intelligence. So I invite you to be super gentle and practice this technique with non-judgmental curiosity, as I like to say. And yeah, let me know how it goes. So the second tip sort of goes along with the first. And the second tip is to trust your gut. So there's a great quote on trusting your gut from Melody Wilding, who's a professor of human behavior at Hunter College. And this quote sums up why this is so important. So she says, trusting your gut is trusting the collection of all your subconscious experiences. Your gut is this collection of heuristic shortcuts. It's this unconscious, conscious, learned experience center that you can draw on from your years of being alive. So considering that 95% of our actions and behaviors are influenced by the subconscious mind, I'd say this is pretty important. So she goes on to say, the gut holds insights that aren't immediately available to your conscious mind right now, but they're all the things that you've learned and felt. In the moment, we might not be readily able to access specific information, but our gut has it at the ready. So this is the gut center of intelligence, again, the body center of intelligence. And in our world of information overload, and also being generally a head-centered culture, we sometimes lose sight of that trust of the gut. So how do we get back to trusting our guts as a means to helping us make decisions? And you have to create that space. Again, there I go talking about space again. So in the first tip, I talked about getting in touch with the physical body and its sensations. So some other ideas for getting in touch with the physical body might be to go for a walk, to meditate, do a body scan, take a nap, just anything to step away from thinking about things, to step away from the head center of intelligence. And man, I'm a big fan of naps and shutting down. And the thing is, whenever you wake up from a nap, when you wake up from sleep, there's always this delicious space between sleeping and being fully awake. And it is a lovely place to be. And it's somewhere that we can luxuriate in before we remember our problems and our issues and our struggles. So here's a way to take advantage of that space. So upon waking, I invite you to hit the snooze, but stay awake, eyes closed. It's better even if you can wake naturally. And when you start thinking about that issue that has you stuck, and our minds always get in there first thing in the morning, gently put the spinning on the mental hamster wheel aside and check in with your gut. So acknowledge any reactions here, initial sensations, feelings, emotions, whatever comes up. And these sensations might be fleeting before the mental chatter starts up again, but see how long you can hold on to that sensation to help uncover what you truly want and need, not what your head is telling you, not what our friends and family are telling us, and I'll get to them in a minute. But this, like getting in touch with the sensations of the body, this can be hard at first, but the skill can be cultivated over time. So practice. Be curious about listening to your gut. So the next tip is to bring the heart into the equation here. So we talked about the gut, the body center of intelligence. The head center is already doing its thing, but let's talk about the heart. So take a moment to become quiet and still. Put your hands over your heart. and ask yourself, what does my heart desire? So the heart holds our deepest emotions and desires. The heart does not lie, and we cannot control it the way we can our thoughts and beliefs. We often overlook the heart when we're feeling stuck. So checking in with my heart allowed me to make a big decision, and I knew immediately what I had to do, even though I knew that moving forward would be really hard. So I invite you, if you're feeling stuck, even throughout your day, just check in, put your hand over your heart, take a moment, and ask yourself, what does my heart desire? So the fourth tip is about your why. So what is your why? In other words, why are you doing what you do or what you want to do? Why are you not doing what you think you should be doing? What is your why? And finding your why involves two things. It involves figuring out what's important. So these are values. And I always ask clients, what is important about this topic you brought to the session today? What is important about this long-term goal? So really get curious about those values. And the second thing is figuring out the feeling you want to have when all is right with the world. For example, when you aren't stuck. And we call this in coaching a desired state or a vision. So think about that feeling you want at the end. What does that feel like? So relaxing into your values and your desired state, sometimes this opens up possibilities. So for example, I had a client who chose to leave their comfy job in the corporate world. They had 6 months of severance pay, and they were taking this time to explore what was next, but nothing was clear. They were feeling really stuck. So we talked through values, what's important to them. What came forward was how important nature was, how important sustainability was to them. And then the feelings, they came forward on their own. Their energy was palpable. This client spoke of the possibilities. They lit up, they smiled, they started talking a little faster, they sat up straighter. This electric feeling, it spurred that client toward uncharted territory, which was a little scary, but it was towards something that was of great value to them. So terrifying but exciting. I call that excitifying. And did the client know how they were going to get there? No, that's the how. We talk about how in other times in coaching sessions. And this is also where our head center of intelligence can really take over. We start thinking logistics and the how and the planning takes over. But put that aside. Focus on the why. Focus on a direction. Focus on the energy, the emotion. I believe that action steps and plans come together so much more easily if your why is clear. So what is your why? Think about what's important to you. Think about that end state, that desired state. So the last tip I want to share is about motivation. So if you're feeling stuck, check your motivation. So there's two kinds of motivation, external and internal. And external motivation might look like choosing to do something because our parents or our partners want us to, like we want to please them. Maybe we're doing something because everyone else is doing it. So think fads, trends. Maybe we're making a decision based on our environment. Maybe you live in a noisy apartment building. Maybe you don't like the weather or the climate where you're currently living. So that's external motivation. Maybe we're choosing something because of the cultural, political landscape. So this is peer pressure right here. That's external. So internal motivation might look like choosing something because we want to, or doing something that goes against the norm. Maybe it's making a decision based on what your gut or your heart is telling you. Maybe it's choosing something regardless of that cultural or political landscape. So here's the key thing to remember. Internal motivation will always, always, always be stronger than external motivation when it comes to getting unstuck. So I remember when I was going through the process of not coloring my hair, I kind of made the choice to go gray, to let my grays shine. And this decision, it just happened for me. It made sense. all of a sudden it made sense to allow my natural hair to complement the changes that were showing elsewhere in my face and body. And I didn't think much of this decision until I joined a few Facebook groups for people who were also making the transition to gray or silver or white hair. And man, there was so much angst and confusion, sadness, frustration in these groups regarding their hair. And I'm not judging, I'm just noticing. And another thing I noticed was all the external motivation going on in these groups. People were getting confused and upset when someone would say something about letting themselves go, or are you really going to stop coloring? Or maybe you look so much older, as if that's a bad thing. And others would get frustrated because they work in the corporate world and maybe they felt like they would never be able to climb the ladder if they showed up with gray hair. So sad state for our society, but again, topic for another time. I remember when I was in my early 40s and I'm in my early 50s, mid 50s now. Oi. But I remember in my 40s, I went to visit my parents and I had some gray roots showing as I hadn't colored my hair in a few weeks. And my dad said, "Wow, you have a lot of gray hair, don't you?" And I suppose he was just noticing as well. But I cringed. And I was so worried about what other people thought about me and my hair. And I remember going home and immediately coloring my hair. So here's the thing. There's a lot of external motivation going on in these scenarios. Friends, family, culture, Facebook groups, people we don't even know. They all influence how we make choices. And I think about my hair now, my gray silver hair, and the choice I made to stop coloring, and it is like something clicked. There's no hemming, there's no hawing, there's no listening to anyone else outside of me. I just chose to move forward. So in my 40s, I was not in a place to listen to my own thoughts and feelings. I was very externally motivated. But when I got curious about why I think the thoughts I do and why I behave the way I do, well, my internal motivation, it shot through the roof. And I'm not just talking about hair here. That was just a little story. But I'm talking about every single decision I make. And shout out to my mentor coaches and other coaches I've worked with these past several years who've helped me untangle those thoughts and behaviors. But every single decision I make, I can now easily catch myself when I feel those external forces swaying me. Ignoring those forces, that's the tricky part. But taking a moment to remember who I am and my purpose, my passion for being here on this planet, this is what gets me back on the path of possibility. That is a lot of P's there in that sense. But when it comes to challenges, when it comes to being stuck, so be curious about this. Where do you see yourself being externally motivated? And just a reminder, this is a no judgment zone. Be very gentle with yourself. So one other thing about motivation. So the motivation I'm talking about when it comes to getting unstuck is more often than not related to a specific outcome of a specific thing you have in mind and a decision you have to make around that topic. And when it comes to the Enneagram, we each have one of 9 motivations, one that goes along with each of the 9 Enneagram types. And this motivation can be very unconscious. And again, talked about blind spots earlier. Motivation can be a real blind spot for many of us. And so, just to touch on the motivations of each type in the briefest of sentences, let's talk about each one of them. So type 8 motivation, they want to be in control and to avoid vulnerability. Type 9s, people who lead with type 9, they want to have peace and avoid conflict. People who lead with type 1, they want to be good and to do what's right. Type 2s, they want to be loved and appreciated. Type 3s want to be successful and admired for what they do. Type 4s want to be unique and authentically themselves. People who lead with type 5 energy want to be competent and self-sufficient. Type 6, these people want to feel secure and supported. And finally, type 7s, they want to be happy and they want to avoid pain. So these motivations, again, can be very unconscious. But if you're feeling stuck, I invite you to consider each of those. Does one resonate more than the rest? And keep in mind, staying still or being stuck, that too is motivation. And for example, type 9s, they want to avoid conflict. Maybe you lead with type 9 energy and you're in a bad relationship. And you want to leave that relationship, but you don't want to upset other people around you. So that's very external. You don't want to upset family or friends, so you stay put. I mean, that's motivation right there. So there's a lot more to be said about the Enneagram. And if you are curious to learn more, I'm holding a free training about the Enneagram, relationships, and communication styles. You can register for that at swansoncoaching.com/training. And I'll also leave that link in the show notes. So until next time, I'm curious, what do you do when you're feeling stuck? Have you tried any of these tips, tricks, and tools that I've mentioned? I'd be interested to hear of your experiences. Until next time, you know what to do. Stay curious, my friend. We'll see you soon.